And then I felt like technically there was something I really wanted, because I kept going to everybody and they'd say, well, we can't teach you anything, you know. You can already play the drums better than anybody that we know, you know. And play the drums, not music necessarily, but the drums, right? So I heard, I kept looking for drum. I kept thinking about something. It's like an itch you're trying to scratch, you know. And I think that's, when I think back on it, that was intuition or something, because it's the same thing I keep looking for now. You know, it's like I have a taste in my, it's like having a taste in your mouth and you don't know where to find that taste, you know. So I heard, I went to a place called Shaman Clay. It was the days when you could go into a record booth. You could take a record off the rack and go in and listen to it and see if you liked it. So I heard this drum solo called Sounds of a Loop. It was a Dave Brubeck record. And he was playing like ding, 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 ding. With one hand, he was triplet. It was something that only people did with two hands. Nobody ever had done it with one hand playing the cymbal, the other hand playing these intricate drum solo, right? Blew my mind. That's it. I said, wow. I went to another friend, this drum shop. See, it was a different world, because there was drum shops that don't exist anymore. There's music stores now, but there used to be just drum shops. Everybody hung out. If Max Roach was in town on Saturday afternoon, you could go down and Max Roach would be there. Right? And there was a famous one in San Francisco called Kenny Williams Drumland. So I went down to Kenny Williams and I said, oh man, I heard this thing. That's it, man, that's it. You know, he'd put up with me for years, walking around, scratching my head, trying to get drum on. He said, oh man, Joe Morello, yeah. We'll call him. He lives right up the street. You know, I went, what? So I took a lesson, and we became, I became his student. You know, I mean, it was 2 years of very intense, or maybe 2.5 years. I was about 17 and study with him, learning to teach his way of teaching, learning to practice. I mean, you know, learning his whole technical thing. And at the same time, I would carry his drums to the gigs and set up his drums, pick out his drumsticks, pick him up at the airport, hang around with him. I would just hung out, and that's really there was a formal lesson every week, you know, which I paid for, and he gave me the money back a lot of the time. You know, it was $10, imagine, $10, right? And anyway, he'd talk to me about music, and he would talk to me about what it was like to be everything I wanted to be. You know, he was so famous at the time. But it was interesting, he talked about playing music, and he talked about the reason you have technique. The reason for having technique is so that the music is free. You know, it's not the other way around. It's not that you get all this technique and that's going to make you play music, quote, on the absolute level. Because you don't need technique to play music. You can play anything in one beat. But hopefully you have technique so that if you hear something, if you want to do something, you can do it. It flows. There's no blockage for the music. So technique is a means of eliminating a limitation on what you do, right? So at the same time, I was hanging around with Elvin Jones and following him around and doing the same thing, you know. And the whole time I think that, I was listening to Monk, and I was listening to Train, and I was getting to hear all those people live, and I was going to kind of stand around and listen to how they talked or what they talked about. So it was like a total immersion. And I was going to college. I started to go to college. I went to San Francisco State College. And then there was a great percussionist there named Roland Koloff, who's at the New York Philharmonic now. Brilliant timpanist. So I learned to play timpani and tambourine and all that stuff, you know, balance. And then that became another influence because of what I hear on the drum set. The reason I play with electronics is because of that. It's because I loved playing in a percussion section when we were short-handed. You got to run around and play timpani and then run over bit the bass drum, you know. So this concept started to grow about a big, large instrument, of a percussion instrument, you know. And that led to electronics because of the sound.
I like that.
And so then I was just, you know, kind of like a young cat hanging around San Francisco like all the rest of them. I once woke Chunk Rinpoche up in the morning, you know, and I said, my wife's leaving me, man, you know, oh God, you know, my life is coming apart. I had, blah, blah, blah. He looked up at me and he said, sounds like you're leading an extremely rich life. And it was, of course, not what I wanted to hear at the time. You know, I was like, Daddy, help me, you know. And then I think you begin to look around and you see you're leading an extremely rich life. Yeah, so it's like, and you look at young people playing and starting to play or make film or whatever they're doing, and you want to say, yeah, man, this is great times.